What's up? Hi, hello, everyone. Wow, so today we are back going to be talking about Survivor season 48, episode 7. We're like halfway through this season, which is pretty wild. So, my name is Rachel.
I'm Alyssa, and I feel like I didn't even realize we were halfway through the season until I was scrolling through the wiki, and I was like, wait, there's not that many people left. Like, there are a lot of people left, but there's not like a ton left. So I always love this point of the season where it kind of feels like we're about to roll downhill and kind of everything starts to snowball. So I'm really excited about that.
Yeah, we're at the final 10 going into next week. We've got the real merge happen. They've made the merge now. They've named the merge tribe after milk in Chinese, which I guess that's why we saw last week Joe and David talking about drinking a gallon of milk. But then I'm surprised that this scene didn't make the episode because it's coming full circle.
Yeah, they were really foreshadowing something there with the milk. I think Mary tweeted that part of the reason why the name is in Chinese is because her parents speak Chinese, and she was hoping that she could like swindle CBS into adding Chinese subtitles so her parents could watch, but apparently that didn't happen. So rip Mary, but everyone else was a bro for letting her name the tribe in Chinese so that they could maybe try to get her parent to watch.
Yeah, it's a fun, interesting tribe name. I think like the backstory makes it better. If they just named it Milk randomly, I think that would be a little bit weird. I think also if they stuck this scene into the episode, it would really be full circle because then in the immunity challenge this episode, you come down, the final two, the Milk Bros are dueling it out. And so after seeing this episode, I'm like, maybe I need to start drinking a ton of milk.
I don't think that that's why they were the last two, but entirely possible, I suppose. I felt like the challenge was super fun though. So the Milk Bros, they really made the challenge fun.
It'll be interesting to see if Milk becomes the new like season 40 several or several. It's a new joke of the season, maybe. It'll be interesting if it keeps coming up. They'll have like a milk and cookies challenge reward. Just milk. If they do an auction, they've got to have milk.
Yeah. It reminds me of all of those like commercials in the 90s and early 2000s, the like got milk commercials where like they
Mm.
would show a celebrity with a milk mustache. I just like I would watch a got milk commercial with Joe and David.
David can start making a lot more money. He should really like do modeling or something like that because I think he could have a good career there.
Yeah. Especially with his biceps flex.
That's what I'm saying. And then it's like, drink our milk, you've become this buff. So we start off this episode. Mitch, he got a lot of screen time this episode. I was a little bit worried for him going into tribal council. We start off the episode with Mitch. He's sad and he's hurt that he was lied to, that his bestie Charity got voted out last week. We see people apologizing to Mitch. We also see Mitch apologize to Say. Low-key feels bad for Mitch. Now Say hates him like she hates Cedric because Mitch now has written Say's name down twice, so he's dead to her.
Yeah, I thought it was really funny. Say said something like, "It's good that he apologized, but I still don't like him." And I was like, "Say." It feels like she definitely has a vendetta for anyone who ever votes for her. And I'm kind of like, dude, you gotta let that go. And I feel like part of the reason why, spoiler, I guess, she went home was because she's just kind of intense about people voting for her. And I feel like a lot of people are kind of over it.
I agree, especially when we get to that first tribal and talk about other potential possibilities. Maybe they could have made things work between the people on the bottom here. But yeah, sucks for Mitch. He's in the same boat as Cedric, as someone that Say very much dislikes now. We also see Mitch saying that he's been having a hard time, like with the vote and also not eating. He said emotionally the vote really hurt. Lying and being lied to really, really hurt. And he said that The Blind Side was a rude awakening. And so I wonder, like, okay, is this foreshadowing maybe some bad news for Mitch coming up?
I feel like it could also be like the darkness before the dawn for Mitch because he also just like he didn't get to have food today. He just recently got blindsided. Like all this bad stuff is coming, but like maybe next week he wins a reward challenge or something along those lines. Because I feel like a lot of times when we hear people talking about like, oh, everything is going wrong, then we get to see something go right for them. And so I really hope that it's not like Mitch is just going to be like stomped all over for the rest of the season. But who knows? Especially because he's such a sweet seeming guy.
Agree. You're definitely more positive than me. Seeing all like the negativity around Mitch this episode and like he's feeling down and then also not eating. I was like, oh, this might not be good. He might be in hot water moving forward if the negativity continues. I maybe it could be like a Owen or Jake where they're having issues and then they continue to be stomped on. So I like your points of view better, where maybe, okay, this is the bad, and then it will get better, and we'll see a comeback for Mitch next time.
Yeah, because I think we also did see like some glimpses of the good in Mitch. Like he was talking about, like, oh, I have all these kids in my PE class. They're gonna be so excited to see Mr. G like on Survivor. And I feel like if they just wanted to stomp all over him, they wouldn't have been like, and he's a PE teacher whose kids love him. So maybe that's just me being optimistic, though.
We do see Mitch bonding potentially with Shaheen and Joe. We see Mitch telling them about his old jobs that he's had. So maybe they could form a connection there. I do think it's interesting, like we talked about last week, that Mitch was left out of the Strong People's Alliance when we heard multiple times this episode, hey, Mitch is really good at challenges. Hey, Mitch is really good at these like random games too, like throwing the balls or rolling the balls. And that's what we've been saying all season. Like, high key, Mitch is really good at these challenges. So he should have been invited to the Strong Person Alliance.
He should have been. So I did think it was interesting that Mitch was the not strong person who lasted the longest in the challenge today because it kind of did prove that like he should be up there with the strong people too.
Yeah, we also hear multiple people this episode mention Mitch having a very good story. If Mitch made it to the end of the game, Mitch would get a lot of votes. Mitch could win the game. And they thought this was very interesting because preseason we talked about, okay, people's stories being used against them. And it does seem that low key it's happening here, or maybe high key because people are like verbally mentioning it compared to, oh, just saying he's a threat or he's good at challenges, let's vote him out. But we've heard multiple people this episode say, I want to vote him out because he's good at challenges, but also because he's have a really good story.
Yeah. So fingers crossed for Mitch.
So we also see Cedric having some issues at the start of this episode. He's a little bit freaked out that he got a vote last week. He said that the handwriting looks like a woman's handwriting, but he maybe guessed Say, but then he's like, no, it wasn't Say because I've been to tribal with her before. I've seen her handwriting before. This isn't her handwriting. It's not the same. And then he even says in confessional, maybe Say changed her handwriting to vote for me, cut to Say saying, "Yeah, I did exactly that because I wanted to be petty against Cedric."
I thought that was so funny. I was just like, why are you being such a hater? I especially thought she was like, he should know how it feels to be betrayed by the person he trusts when like she isn't even saying that it's her. So like it's not the person he trusts. It's just he knows he got one random vote. Like I simply do not understand.
Ah, so she should have told him, "Yeah, it was me. I voted for you. Now you know how it feels."
Exactly.
But lucky though, I like that way of thinking. I feel like in real life, that's how people can learn. I feel like sometimes stuff happens in real life and people just can't understand why you feel that certain way. And then so you've got to be like, okay, well, let me do the crappy thing that you did to me. I'm going to do it back to you and you can see how it feels and it doesn't feel too hot.
Yeah. I think that would have been really petty, but also I could see Say doing it.
Yeah, so too bad though. We're both eliminated this episode, so we won't see any more bickering or pettiness between them. It's also funny, Say to Cedric's face said, "Yeah, no, I think it was charity." It does make sense. Okay, blame it on the person that got voted out.
Mhm.
So that was pretty funny. And then Say also on social media was like, "Yeah, I voted for him for fun as a hater."
I mean, I gotta respect the hater game.
True. You know, she should have been invited to the Honor Integrity Alliance because at least she's honest.
Yeah, that's true.
So, starting off the episode, we hear from other people that Cedric, Say, and Mitch are the three people on the outs. They say, okay, it's so close to jury. Anyone who wants to work with those three people on the bottom, you're basically blowing up your own game. So no one's going to work for them, with them. Easy vote. Shaheen, before we go to the immunity challenge, we get a shot of him. He's saying, I have a lot of power right now. Everyone needs to come through me. I have control. And then I was like, oh, this might be sort of bad because anyone who says anything too strong like that is bad news bears.
Yeah, I did think it was interesting. This whole episode kind of, I think, was designed to make you feel worried about Shaheen, just because we've talked so many times about how whenever someone declares that they're in like the best position ever is when they're inevitably going to meet their downfall. So I feel like Shaheen talking this big game of like, oh, I'm in such a great position, kind of is for the viewers, at least the ones who pay attention to the edit, to be like, oh no, is he really in that great of a position? And to kind of start worrying about him.
I agree. It seems like the edit from the Mitch negativity to the Shaheen, I guess, cockiness here. It's sort of like, okay, these are two people in regular editing. You're like, ah, that person's maybe going home this episode because they are standing out a little bit more. But then it's also interesting because, like we just talked about, Cedric and Say are also just visibly on the outs. And then Mitch and Shaheen are like the sleeper picks.
Yeah, it's always interesting, I think.
So we get to the reward immunity challenge. Like we've said, we're splitting into two teams. One person from each team is going to win immunity, and then the first team going to tribal doesn't make jury. The second team going to tribal, since that person lasted the longest, they get the reward part of the challenge as well. Here it is DIY PB&J sandwiches, which I'm like, okay, that's good. Like the peanut butter would be a lot of calories, but also I'm like, ah, low key, that's not that good.
Yeah, I feel like of all of the challenges, like PB and J's are kind of especially because a sandwich doesn't feel the same as like biting into a like chicken leg or something. So it definitely feels like a reward that was kind of like budget friendly for the Survivor production. Like, let's just get a couple jars of peanut butter and a couple jars of jelly and call it a day.
Yeah, we've got $20 left to spend. What can we buy with our money?
Yeah.
So they are holding the handles connected to the buckets on the ropes with 25% of their pre-game body weight on there. This is the Charlie challenge like we saw. You got to practice your grippers, practice the grip strength, and then you can win this challenge.
Yeah. I do feel like there's a little bit more than just grip strength. Whew, got messed up on those words. Just grip strength because there is the bucket at the end, but it is partially grip strength. I think it's more than that though, because otherwise the like big muscly guys wouldn't have necessarily been the best at it.
I feel like when Charlie won this challenge, we talked about it. It's like, okay, I think maybe he said he did rock climbing. I think if you do rock climbing, you could be very good at this challenge because, like, with grip strength, you're also working your forearms. And I can see, like, when you're holding, it's a lot of this muscle there as well as grip strength. So I can definitely see, got to practice your grippers like Charlie. But I would say, right, like, rock climbing, like, that would be really good for this challenge.
I feel like rock climbing in general would be good preparation for Survivor because is grip strength, but it's also a lot of different muscle groups. You work out your core, and then if you ever need to climb a rock, you're good.
Cedric should have practiced his grippers.
Yeah, that was what was wrong with Cedric.
It's crazy. So he dropped in 20 seconds. And last week, we were saying, oh, if it's a hand challenge, Cedric could do so well. He gets a hand challenge, but we forgot to account the strength part of the hand challenge.
Yeah, I was gonna say we should have gone for a hand precision challenge, like something where you have to like use chopsticks to create a tower or something. So
The
Cedric
opposite
was
of our
doomed
foot
for failure.
challenge.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, or like Operation. I want to see Cedric do challenges. Like, could he be good at Samotion? Because that involves like concentration, eye-hand coordination. I feel like he'd have to be good at. Like, I think he could be good at that.
You see, the thing is, I thought he would be good at endurance challenges since surgeons have to like stand around for a long time when they're operating on people, but he wasn't good at that either. So I feel like any challenge where we're like, oh, Cedric might be good at that, I don't think he would be good at that. I think challenges are just not his strong suit, and that's okay.
I guess in surgery, you've got to practice your weight training because you're not used to holding all that weight with your, I guess, your surgery utensils.
Yeah, the surgery utensils are really light.
So the two teams, we've got Orange team, which is Star, Joe, Mitch, Chrissy, Eva, and Say. And then you've got the purple team, which is Kyle, David, Mary, Cedric, Camilla, and Shaheen. For my fantasy team this week, I picked Joe, Eva, David, and Kyle. So it's on it for fantasy points because for challenges, you get points for however many people they beat in the challenges. And so I picked the final four people standing here. So I was like, pretty good. Like we said, Mitch, top five in this challenge. Shaheen was top six. So technically, Mitch should be in the Strong Person Alliance.
And
Shaheen got
should
to get kicked
be
out.
voted off the island.
Yeah, so it's like it is interesting that out of the top six, five of them are in that strong person alliance, so they can really just say, yeah, these are the strong people, as evidenced by this one challenge we did.
Yes. I did think it was funny after Shaheen got out, he really added some color commentary to this challenge. I thought this challenge was super fun. I feel like normally these kinds of challenges are kind of boring to watch because Jeff kind of repeats the same phrases over and over, just with slightly different names subbed in. But Shaheen was like given his own soundtrack. He was like making pithy comments. It was great.
Shaheen imitating the song was like top tier. I thought that was so funny. And then Mary's reactions sitting next to him were also so funny. And then Shaheen saying that Joe and David are the reason why he doesn't take his shirt off on this show. I thought that was funny. Now I think we have to like watch and see, okay, does Shaheen ever go shirtless? And then it like sort of cuts like Cedric's wearing a shirt. The other men are also wearing shirts.
I mean, when you're competing with someone who looks like a Greek statue, why would you want to take your shirt off?
Yeah, then you're gonna get bullied like Jeff is bullying Cedric.
Yeah. Cedric should bully them for not being as smart as he is.
True. He's very intelligent to be a doctor. So with Joe and Eva, they are the last two for their team. Eva starts slipping. Joe is trying to help her out, trying to gas her up. I watched this episode with some of my classmates, and we all thought, okay, maybe Joe might drop and let Eva win a challenge potentially. Maybe we see that in the future.
That would be fun. I feel like there are some challenges that Eva could win without like someone needing to drop for him though, for her though. So, I don't know.
I agree. I think it goes to the whole Joe saying that he would like get voted out over Eva. I could see maybe in the future when the numbers get down to it, if it's like, okay, Eva's idol has been played already and Eva and Joe are in some hot waters, I could definitely see Joe throwing a challenge to get Eva the immunity necklace.
That would be quite the way for Joe to go home if he, thinks that Eva's in trouble, drops for her, and then they decide to vote him instead because he's her right hand guy.
That'd be sort of good TV, I feel like. Or if he gave up the immunity necklace. He doesn't need to drop for her. He can win it and then give it to her at Tribal.
That would be spicy. Having everyone have to switch last minute.
Because Loki, I feel like we're going to have to see Joe end his game for Eva, because I feel like that's the theme we saw from the start of the season.
I don't know. Some people are thinking that it's like a Joe winner edit and they're showing how loyal he is to Eva to kind of set him up as like a good winner. I don't think that it's necessary that he would have to give up his game for Eva.
True. I think if Eva were to get voted out, they would have to blindside Joe and Eva. I think if Joe sniffed out that she was potentially on the chopping block, then maybe he would try to eliminate himself over her.
Yeah. That would be I feel like that would be so dramatic that it would only happen like in scripted television, but who knows?
Survivor scripted. That's why I think like that version's better TV compared to, oh, let's blindside Joe and Eva and not tell either of them and then vote one of them out and then Joe goes on to win the game. I think it'd be better TV if one of them eliminates themselves for the other because they have that strong bond.
Yeah. But who knows? I also think it would be really interesting if they both got to final tribal and then were competing against each other at the final tribal council.
Ooh, that would also be spicy because then it's like Joe, I think, would have to fight for himself. You can't let just give $1 million away. You'd have to think of your family and stuff like that too.
Yeah, but who knows? Not us.
That might be even better. Maybe that's better than what I just said of one of them eliminating themselves. Let's see both of them get to final and then have to fight.
Yeah.
So it's down to Kyle and David on the other team. Kyle rips some skin while he's trying to notch the bucket back up. And then it's a throwback to the callus wart humble trait. And he said he ripped some skin. It was the callus. And then everyone's screaming, no, it was a wart. I was like, wow, it's come full circle.
I wonder if everyone else not on that tribe like heard this story or if they're all just like, what is this wart callus thing about? Because if I were someone on a different tribe, I would be like, what is going on here?
And how come we haven't seen a close up of it? We saw Charity's weird toes. We see a bunch of feet all the time. We don't get to see his wart callus. Like, if you put it on screen, some doctor would be able to see it and tell you if it's a wart or a callus.
I mean, I feel like it is on an awkward place to like zoom in on. Like, you probably don't get a lot of good views of like the palms of people's hands,
Kyle needs to post a picture on social media for people to judge.
right? We're waiting, Kyle.
But if it got ripped, is it gone or is it just like rehealing?
Who knows? I'm not a wart doctor.
Yeah, neither is Cedric. But Kyle, he drops. He tells David, you got this. I feel like it's probably not planned that he did this. It's probably just like, okay, I'm about to fall, so I have to leave this challenge now. But it is low-key smart for him to do because if Kyle knew, okay, I definitely like my hands hurt, I can't do this for much longer, you should drop. Let David have it. David's in your alliance. Make him feel good. Let him win immunity. Build more trust between the two of you. David looking solid. He was doing the thing for one hand for a lot of it. You might as well drop earlier too to save your grip strength. And then dropping earlier makes you look less threatening because, like last season, the other Kyle won this challenge and the last challenge back to back became a big challenge threat. Winning the first challenges here back to back for Kyle this season might look a little bit too threatening. So even though Kyle did make it far in this challenge, I feel like compared to people beating the records, he looks less threatening now.
Yeah, I feel like especially when Joe and David got so far, it would have been a waste for him to like try to keep up, especially because, like you said, it would make him seem threatening. It would waste a lot of time. And then also, if you believe that David's gonna win, you don't have to put in all that extra effort because like you'll still get a PB&J, and you're in a good enough position that you're probably not the one to go home, so it's fine.
I agree. And then even though Kyle is third, after seeing like Joe and David, and especially David flexing all the time, people probably won't even remember Kyle too much here.
Yeah, I feel like Kyle will kind of just be a footnote. Maybe they'll remember his wart ripping, but not much else.
So it gets down to David versus Joe. Jeff gives Gabler a shout out for the 38-minute record in this challenge. And then we all know that challenge. Gabler was shouting all of the random people out to get by in the timing. Then I feel like David and Joe should have shouted people out. That's what I wanted it to cut to, but we didn't get that.
I feel like David has said he hasn't watched Survivor before. So if he started shouting things out, that would kind of be like, wait, David, you've seen Survivor? So that would not be good for him because I'm pretty sure his cover story is that he's too dumb to play good Survivor. And that's part of the reason he's not a threat.
Then it's like a shout out. I can just copy the shout out. Shout out to my girlfriend. Shout out to my parents. Shout out to my dog. Shout out to Alaska.
Shout out to the shout out.
Shout out to Joe for being here. Shout out Jeff. Shout out Shaheen. Maybe it got cut because I feel like it is sort of boring.
Yeah, I feel like Gabler's really only made it because he was the eventual winner, and like they wanted to show him like doing good.
True. So David and Joe, they're looking pretty strong up there. They're both doing it for one arm at certain points in time, flexing. It's pretty crazy. They last almost an hour holding that. And especially for like two big guys, I feel like it's got to be difficult because 25% of their body weight is probably like 50 or 60 pounds compared to women. It might only be like 30, 40 pounds.
Yeah, but also, what is the rate at which you lose muscle mass? And if you're someone who's like as muscly as David, maybe you haven't lost as much of your muscle mass as someone who like doesn't have a lot of muscle mass and has lost a lot of weight.
True. And also, like men, they can have better upper body strength than women, hence why men can bench way more than women. So maybe that plays into it too.
Yeah, you always gotta wonder, is the game rigged?
So Joe drops first, and they beat the record, and David wins this challenge to get the food. Technically, they both won individual immunity, and then they're fighting it out to get the PB&J sandwiches. Joe's pretty sad. He doesn't get any food. Say is sad, no peanut butter, and she was saying peanut butter a bunch. Mitch's face, also so sad. He doesn't get any food, but David wins the food for his team.
Yeah, I feel like Mitch is the saddest because he said he's the only one who hasn't gotten a food reward yet. And I was like, oh, poor Mitch. I feel like for Joe, it probably feels the worst though, because he spent so many calories standing there for an hour and now he's going to get like only a few back.
True, and then you just made a target of yourself and you're not even the hero. At least David won something for his team. He gets some brownie points for getting food for his team. Joe, 52 plus minutes, and you're like, ah, no food either.
Yeah, sucks to suck.
Feels bad. It was also funny when Kyle, after he got eliminated, he says something like, oh, this would be a good commercial. Survivor's not easy. And then cut to Jeff. He's like, yeah, it would be a good commercial. Kyle, what would you say? And then they make it a weird little ad.
Yeah, it's not a cut to commercial. It's literally just within the thing. And I was like, it would have been funnier if they cut to commercial and then came back to finish the immunity challenge. But alas.
Yeah. Or they like used what Kyle said, but Jeff's mouth was moving. And they like cut to Jeff in the woods where he usually does these things or like on the beach, not at the challenge, but then it's Kyle's voice talking.
Yeah. Either way, I thought it was funny.
I thought it was overall a fun challenge. It was a long part of the episode, but it was fun. There's a lot of cute moments here.
Yeah, and I feel like it didn't feel like it was unnecessarily long. Like it felt like something was always happening. Sometimes those challenges, like I said, they do get kind of boring because Jeff's just talking about digging deep and stuff like that. And I'm like, okay, but Jeff, we heard that 10 times already.
You gotta dig deep, Alyssa. Dig deeper. Deepest.
Deeper than that.
Deeper, yeah. We just the deepest we can go.
Dig all the way through the earth.
So the loser team, they get to go to tribal council first, and the person voted out here does not make it to the jury. So sad. So Mitch and Say are the two obvious people on the outs. And it seems like really nobody wants to rock the boat. This person's not making it to the jury, so let's just vote the easy person out because why would I not want to make the jury? If I bring up someone else's name and rock the boat, I could get eliminated and then I'm not on the jury.
Yeah, I thought it was interesting that Mary basically immediately was like, "Oh, Say's going to get voted out from from that group." Because Say is exactly the kind of person who you don't want to be on the jury, just because she would be so bitter if you're one of the people who voted her out. So I feel like Mary was so funny, immediately being like, "Oh, Say's gone," and then, like you said, it does make sense strategy wise.
I think we talked about it last week too, and I think that's a big deciding factor here. Like, yeah, you don't want, say, on the jury compared to Mitch. Okay, he's a threat, he's good at challenges, but like, if Say's the first member of the jury, or I guess if she's second member, if you voted her out next time, if Cedric still gets voted out next, and he's the first member of the jury, it's like, you still got to hang out with her for X number of days, and then she could sway people on the jury. Maybe it's good if, like, you wanted to sit next to Cedric and Mitch at the end because Sid wouldn't want to vote for them because she didn't like them that much. But I could definitely see, like, not wanting this person on the jury being a big factor here, and that's why the vote was Say over Mitch, even if Mitch is threatening.
Yeah. I also feel like people generally like Mitch in the sense of like a lot of people see being on the jury as something that's really important. And I think that they know how upset he would be if he wasn't on the jury. And it's kind of like, okay, we like him enough to keep him around for another vote and to make sure that he gets on the jury.
And I think Chrissy said it well. She was like, okay, the other side probably they're voting Cedric, but the smart move would be to vote Shaheen out. That's true. Same thing here. Say is the easy vote. Maybe if you're trying to do a bigger move, you vote Mitch out because he could win these immunity challenges. But I think an even bigger move, if, say, Mitch and Chrissy actually could have teamed up here, they maybe could have done something because say Mitch Chrissy, they were on the tribe together at the tribe swap, so they've all like known each other for a little bit longer. We saw that they don't really have the best relationship because Mitch and Say those votes and then all that. So their relationship's a little bit rocky. But if they could have put those things past each other, like technically you could have used Mitch's block of vote, and then if say Mitch and Chrissy teamed up, use his block of vote, and then you try to vote against Joe and Eva, then if you're afraid that she would play the idol, then you just vote Star and you're still weakening the OG purples.
Yeah, I feel like the problem with this like split tribal of 6 and 6 is it's really hard to build enough trust to do something a little bit like out there because it's there's such a small margin for error. So like while it would have been cool to see them work together and do something interesting, I also totally understand why they don't. And I think that's why a lot of people are kind of opposed to this split tribal format.
I agree. I think it's a little bit too flashy, and especially because this person's not making it to the jury. Like, if you're Chrissy, no way in heck. Why would I put my neck out to do this? Because Joe and Eva, they've got the idol. They could idol me out. They might be like, I don't really like you anymore because you're trying to create this counterfaction. So I think like it does make sense. Joe and Eva here, they're the two people in the power position. We see, say, Mitch and Chrissy all trying to go to Joe and Eva to get them to vote Say or Mitch out of the game. So it's like, okay, that's the power nexus on this small tribe. Everyone's going to go to them, try to work with them, rather than the bottom people are not going to be trying to team up because they're the vulnerable ones.
Yeah, it's one of those things where it's frustrating because the people who could most benefit from the teaming up are the people who are least willing to team up.
Yeah, so it's like interesting, like if Say and Mitch had that working relationship, could they have teamed up here? It might still be a little bit too flashy because it's like the one right before the jury. You might just want to try to keep it safe, and that's maybe a bad thing about the split tribal council. And I also think like with the second tribal, they probably didn't want to vote Shaheen out because then you have to go back final 10 and you have to explain yourself to everyone. If say Mitch and Chrissy somehow voted Star out or they were able to vote Joe or Eva out, people might get pissed off at you and be like, why the heck did you do that? Eva's not on the jury, Joe's not on the jury, you crushed their dreams, we're going to vote you out now.
Yeah, it definitely wouldn't be good to go back to Final 10 and immediately have to start explaining yourself. I think that's another reason why people kind of don't like the split jury format, because hopefully if you're in one big group, you can kind of soften other people to the idea of like, oh, how would you feel if so and so went home, as opposed to like not having any choice in that person going home. So it's easier to do the easy votes.
Exactly. If it was 12 people together, you could gauge people's interest, bring up the idea, and if it got shot down, you wait and then you try it again. But yeah, blindsiding six people on the other side that had no idea what happened, had no say in what's going to happen. Then you have to explain what happened. It would just cause a lot of problems, especially if you're blindsiding someone here.
Yeah, just not a great idea to do a blindside.
So the first tribal council, Chrissy is saying, we can't be honest players in this game. You can't be loyal. You need to make a resume. We need to start blindsiding each other, but not tonight. Low key, I thought they might do a live tribal and just vote Chrissy out here because I was like, oh, red flags, red flags. You're saying this in front of the people that are so gung ho loyal. We don't like backstabbers. I was like, this is not good.
Yeah, it was certainly a choice to say that, but you know, she said what she said.
Yeah, I feel like it might come back to get her. I feel like Joe and Eva are like, what are you saying here? This isn't that good. I think that might make her higher up on the totem pole to get voted out.
Yeah, I think in general, when you look at her edit, it hasn't been super strong. And I feel like something like this, where she kind of just gets, you know, lopped off because she said something at tribal that people disagreed with, would be a reason why she's being like pretty under edited. I know I thought I said she was also being under edited in case she was one of these two boots. So I'm just kind of confused with what's going on there as far as her edit, especially because this is one of the first times that we've heard her talk.
It's like, oh, maybe she's gonna try to start like the bottom people counter alliance because she's thinking she sees that these people are very strong and have like a lot of cushion around them. But I feel like if it's not happening soon, you're gonna lose your chance to be able to try to get these really well insulated people out.
It's kind of going to be like a Laurel on Ghost Island, where you end up being the third to two really strong players. And it's kind of like, well, at least I made the final. Or you get voted out because you're not in their inner circle.
It's funny because Chrissy preseason said she really disliked people that practice puzzles before going out on the show. So it's like, okay, she dislikes the like smart, nerdy players. And now it's like the exact opposite, where she's stuck with all the people that are so honest and so gung ho loyal that maybe she's like, oh, I actually don't like those players, and I'd rather be with the people that practice puzzles.
Yeah, who does she like is the real question.
Yeah, because I feel like the people that practice puzzles are the people that want to blindside and make a resume, which is what she said people needed to start doing.
Definitely is an overlap in those groups of people.
So Say gets her vote blocked by Mitch. Say gets voted out here. Say does not make the jury.
Poor Say. I thought it was really funny when she's like, they voted me out because I'm so much of a threat. And I was like, I really don't think that she was voted out because she was that much of a threat. I think she mostly just annoyed people.
RIP. So Say gets eliminated. The winning team, but still losing because they have to go to tribal council. Kyle and Camilla are hatching up a plan in order to vote Shaheen out. Kyle says, because Shaheen looked through my bag pre-merge, it's a little bit sketchy. Don't really trust him. Don't want to keep looking over my shoulder. Shaheen is the decoy vote that they're telling Cedric is getting voted out. So then they're like, huh, maybe we can make something work here. And once again, this week too, we hear Kyle and Camilla saying, we're the undercover duo, we're in the best spot this season. And this is like the third week in a row we've heard this.
Yeah, it's kind of weird that they're like hammering that so hard. It almost makes me think, like the Joe and Eva thing, that that's going to pay off soon. Just because they keep saying they're the undercover duo, but it didn't really matter for this episode.
Yeah, it's sort of like the David stuff coming up every single week. We just learn random fun facts that are good for David every episode. This is reminding me of that, where, okay, Kyle and Camilla last week really didn't really matter, and somehow it gets brought up here. Okay, it's the fake plan, real plan coming out, so low key it does matter if the Shaheen vote works. But every single week we hear that they are in the best spot, they're an undercover duo, and it's not coming across cocky like Shaheen saying he's in the best spot, but here like really feels genuine.
Yeah, I'm just really curious where they're going with that. Just because it could be like Kyle or Camilla winner at it, or it could be, one of them ends up getting fleeced and the other person is does the rest of the game as their revenge. Like this constant mention of the duo thing, I'm really curious about.
Like we said last week, I think it's going to be a very fine line that they have to walk, especially with all of the loyal people that they're playing with. I think could be really good, could be very bad, might piss some people off that they've been like lying, manipulating this entire time about how close they are. So that might be negative.
It's a good thing that Say wasn't there to find out that Kyle and Camilla were a duo. She definitely would not have taken it well.
So we see Kyle and Camilla. They try to pitch to David, hey, let's make David think this is his idea. David wouldn't want to flip on the strong person alliance this early unless there's a reason. Shaheen is doing mean things to us. So therefore, we have a reason we can go against him. It's not us being disloyal, but it's because he made the first shot, we can shoot back at him. That kind of meta. And they're telling David, oh, or Camilla is telling David, we see, oh, I think Shaheen has the idol. He's a little bit sketchy. And I was like, okay, if David fell for this, I'd be like, low key, he's very gullible.
Yeah, I feel like David in general has been kind of portrayed as like a strong guy, but not all that smart. So
It's the himbo energy.
he really is a
Um,
himbo.
Yeah, so I wonder who called off the plan though. Like it was it David who didn't agree and that's why the plan didn't work, or was it Kyle and Camilla who were like, okay, maybe David's I guess not on board, so maybe that would be David's saying no, or was it Kyle and Camilla being like, actually, this isn't a good time? Because I feel like we just talked about, it's maybe a little bit too early to vote Shaheen out now at final 11 because, like we said, if you vote Shaheen out, Joe and Eva are going to be maybe pissed off or sketched out by you. Like, yo, for Joe, Shaheen, Kyle, Camilla had a secret four-person alliance from the Swap tribe. Joe, Eva, Shaheen, Kyle, David had a strong person alliance. The strong person alliance doesn't even last one vote. They're going to be like, what the heck is wrong with you people?
Yeah, and that would not be good.
Yeah, so that's why it's like, okay. Low key, I think it is good that you don't vote Shaheen out here because you're probably going to have a lot of problems when the tribes come back together and you're going to be in a very bad spot. But I do wonder though if this comes back to bite them because maybe David really wants to ride with Shaheen. He likes Shaheen and Joe. Then he tells Shaheen, "Oh, Camilla thinks you have an idol," and tries to throw Camilla under the bus.
That would be interesting. I don't foresee that happening, but I would find it a lot more fun than just the two of them sticking as a tight duo.
Yeah, so I feel like though they were like, we don't want to rock the boat too much. Voting Shaheen out would definitely rock the boat too much.
Yes, that would be a major rocking of the boat.
Although, low key, you should keep Cedric around because he's not that good at challenges. Shaheen, a little bit better at challenges, might win.
Yeah, but will Shaheen really win when like David and Joe exist? So I'm not sure I would be too worried about that.
The debate competition.
That's true. Maybe if they do one of those like negotiating for rice things.
True. Shaheen would win Rice for the whole team.
Yes, he would.
So the second tribal council, Cedric gets voted out. He becomes the first member of the jury, and Mary is the last Vula standing.
Queen Mary. I thought it was so funny that Mary was almost the first vote out from Vula, and now she's the last one standing. And I feel like it probably would make Say very angry that Mary is the last Vula standing, given their original animosity.
I feel like Say would probably be pissed that Cedric made it further than her technically.
That too.
Because I'm like, I'd be low-key pissed if you like didn't like that person and they made it further, but like by an hour or two, but they make jury and you don't.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I feel like not even that he made it further, but that he made it to the jury and she didn't.
Yeah, just terrible. Now you're what, pre-jury? So it's just all bad.
Yeah. So sucks to be Say and get voted on um that spot.
True. So, David in the preview freaking out a little bit. I feel like you've got to make a move if you're trying to vote out someone in the Strong Person Alliance next week or the week after. Because next week, you're technically going into it 5v5 at Final 10, where you've got five people in the Strong Person Alliance. And then Chrissy, Star, Mary, Camilla, and Mitch are all the people on the outside. They're like, not really in the Strong Person Alliance officially because they're not a quote strong person, but they've got like connections in with the Strong People Alliance. But I feel like the non physical people here have got to start teaming up soon. Otherwise, the strong people just keep winning immunity and then take you all out.
Yeah. So it'll be really interesting because I feel like a lot of times when we say that, like, okay, this needs to be when you make your final stand, is not when people actually will end up doing it. So
Yeah, I could see Mitch or Chrissy going home next week.
I could definitely see that as well. I would love it if it was Shaheen and like this was his prequel to Downfall, but I don't think that it will be.
No, I don't think so either, just because the Strong People Alliance is just so insulated, because technically it's five people in there, but like Star, not in the Strong Person Alliance, but she's like adjacent to Joe and Eva, so she's got a lot of power. Camilla, not in the Strong Person Alliance, but she's got Kyle and so has more elevated power. I think it'll be interesting if like the Strong People Alliance, they're like, let's target Camilla, then what would Kyle do?
That would be so spicy. Like I said, I feel like that would be more interesting than just Kyle and Camilla staying a tight duo, would be if Kyle had to choose whether or not to turn on Camilla.
I agree. I think that would be quite spicy. And then like Mary too, because Mary got swapped with David. We saw Mary and David seemed close this episode. So it seems like Mary is like low-key in with the Strong People Alliance via David. So I'm like Chrissy and Mitch, because they got swapped into a tribe with Cedric and Say. They sort of get screwed over here.
Yeah, but I think it is interesting because now Mary is kind of a free agent.
Yeah, Mary's got a lot of options. And so, like, Mary from the Swapped Alliance, she got to meet David, she got to meet Star, she got to meet Eva. So, I guess we haven't really seen too much of her relationship with like Eva or Star, but like we've seen her talk about David in high regard. So maybe there's a connection there. But I feel like we haven't really seen too much of who's Mary close with.
Yeah. So hopefully Mary starts to get her spotlight again and has a story other than her thing with Say.
Yeah, so low key, the non-Strong People's Alliance people got to start teaming up soon, although I feel like it's probably Mitch or Chrissy next. And then people in the Strong Person Alliance, like a Kyle or a Shaheen, might use the people to flip. But I feel like 5v5 next week, probably not going to be a flip.
Yeah, 5v5 is when you go for a safe vote and try to just pull over one or two people from the other side because no one wants to go to rocks.
Yeah, so I think we gotta wait till 9 or 8 for people to start flipping.
Yeah, we do.
But I'm excited for next week. We'll have to see if the preview is true or not. Low-key, I feel like it's a fake out preview.
Yeah, I definitely don't think that David is in as much danger as the preview makes it seem.
No, they want us to watch. You're like, oh, we don't want David voted out, so we have to come back. But I think it's a fake out, but we will have to see next week. I'm excited to see what's going to happen. Let us know your thoughts on this episode in the comments down below. Did you like it? Did you dislike it? Do you like these split tribal councils or not? Not a fan of them? Let us know. Do you think that voting out Say and Cedric was the right move or the wrong move? Let us know in the comments below. Thank you all so much for watching, and we will see